Okay, so first warm-up exercise, just turning. So this one, we're sort of trying to stay in the middle with the spine, but you will tend to move towards the foot you're facing. Yeah? So I'm tending to move side to side like this. That's it. And just turn, just feel the turn. You're revolving about an axis. So just let your head go with it. So you're leaving the world behind. You're sweeping the room with your eyes. And gradually you get into knocking the gate of life. So the gate of life is the min neng. So as the hand goes behind, you just make a light fist and just strike the first vertebra. You can also strike the front, but that's not so important. It's the back that's important. So by sinking into it and becoming meditative, you get to the state where it feels like you become the movement, or the movement is doing you rather than you doing the movement. So all the time, gravity is streaming down through you. So we want to feel the forces as energies, as energy flowing. That's an indication that you're softening. So feel the feet on the ground, so the gravity is spreading the foot out, the feet. Okay, and now let's just use riding horse to separate each exercise. So just coming back, feeling gravity streaming down, and just trying to get this slightly forward so you're reaching out with your spirit rather than looking down into yourself. Okay, and now the other one, the next one. So now we're moving the spine as much as we can from leg to leg 100%. And then here we're just trying not to let the knee collapse in like this when I turn. So I want to keep the knee out as I turn so that I don't compromise my strength and my knee. So they say the knees are only designed to last 60 years. So if you want them to last longer, you have to look after them. And again, just let the head go. So here you're really looking in this direction. And then here you're really looking in this direction. And on this one, John used to just let the arms swing up a bit higher. So striking the heart gently and the back of the heart. So the backhand is the difficult one because it has to really reach upwards. And just be mindful of full and empty, because one leg is completely filling and the other one is completely emptying. So fullness fills into itself and emptiness empties out into the world. So as I sink into the foot, I'm sort of condensing into it. And as I empty from the foot, I'm expanding out of it. So you can just concentrate on the fullness for a time, feeling the weight, getting right into the heel, and you can concentrate on the emptiness. Yeah, so when you're full, you're all concentrated in the heel. So it's like it's what they call a descending tightening spiral, like running down a funnel. So all of this is just funneled down into the heel. And the empty foot just goes the opposite direction. So the empty foot is just spiraling with an expanding spiral coming upwards. So the emptiness rises and the fullness sinks. So the fullness is not just a sinking into the foot, it's also a sense of getting under. Yeah. So this is what's tricky. So when I sink into the foot, there should be a sense that this foot is uprooted by my sinking. So the sinking is never straight down. It's only straight down if you're still. Whenever you're moving, the sinking is always cutting under and just lifting the foot, yeah? So this is quite important. So your fullness is actually uprooting your emptiness. It's going under, so you've always got a circuit going up the empty side and down the full side. Okay, so let's bring it back just to riding horse for a sec. So just feel that sinking inside. This is just slightly forwards. So you always have a sense of reaching beyond your ward off rather than staying within it. Okay, and now let's try this one. So pivoting on the ball of the foot now instead of the heel, and just letting the hands go. One hand going forwards, one hand going back. So this one gives you a sense of releasing your energy. So the body is moving backwards, but the energy is moving forwards out of this hand. Like a little bird that you're releasing from the hand, or butterfly, and it's just flying away. So it's one of the difficulties is releasing energy from the body. Okay, and now let's just bring it back to riding horse. So the sinking down within the body, and this slightly forwards. So the bum in just ensures that in time your spirit will rise. And when your spirit rises, you also invest the world with spirit. Okay. Now so this is like an exercise that Nitzan sort of added to the warm-ups, which I quite like. So just bouncing, making the legs springy. And again, just trying to sort of imagine your body quite sort of sluggish. So it's a little bit sort of slow motion. So when you're mindful, you tend to do things more slowly. So the movements take on a gravity. And the problem with that is that it will tend to divest the world of spirit. So you have to make sure that your bum stays in. And then you'll get that lift coming through you as well as the heaviness of gravity. So it's a bit like you're standing on a sort of a stiffish trampoline and just sinking into it and allowing it to spring you up a little bit. So that's how the legs should behave. Springy. And then we just alternate. So we just feel how it tends to pull you side to side a little bit. That's it. So when the hand comes down, it will tend to pull you into that leg. So yielding takes you into the same leg, and the attack comes from the opposite leg. Okay, and that just, again, just back into riding horse. So what we want is for our sinking to bring everything up around us. Okay, and now let's try this one where we do the circle. Yeah, so this is a real exercise for the spine. So you get all of these exercises you can experiment with, and you can go down as low as you like, or you can stay quite high, aloft. So the important thing is just try and keep the movement even. So it's like you're mindful of each centimetre of movement, because there'll always be parts that you tend to gloss over. So we're just trying to reveal those, open them up. And then you just change direction. Remember, we used to touch the hands at the top when we changed direction. I never knew why. So by going slowly, we can be attentive to how the mood changes through the exercise. So as you sink down, there tends to be this mood of sort of heaviness and resignation. And when you come up, there's like a light optimism that lifts through you. So you want to become so affected by that mood shift that it has the same effect on the environment that you're in. And then just gradually bring it back to a halt. So you just make the circles smaller. Take about 3 or 4 circles to just wind it down. Great. And then just back into riding horse for a sec. So just feel how you're gradually becoming more relaxed, how the exercises are impacting upon you. Okay, and now just backwards and forwards. So bow and arrow posture. So one foot forwards and the other foot to the corner, the back foot. Just make sure your front foot is facing forward. So the third toe, the middle toe, should be on the line forwards, which means your big toe will actually be pointing in a little bit. And it will look really like your foot is pointing into you. But if you did it in front of a mirror, you'd realize the foot was just pointing forwards. And just moving backwards and forwards and just feeling the full and empty. So to start with, we're with the fullness, because we tend to identify with that. So my weight goes forwards, my weight goes back. And as I relax into it, I slowly wake up to the emptiness. The fact that as I sink back, something expands here. And so remember, the fullness contracts and the emptiness expands. So as I sink forwards, the back foot is expanding. So the fullness and the emptiness move in opposite directions when you're moving. Just imagine you're sort of holding like 1 kilo dumbbells, so it's sort of pulling the shoulders a bit. So the weight of the arms is pulling down the shoulders. And we're just trying to keep the hips directly forwards. Remember, John used to talk about like the car, you've got your headlights here, and you just want those lights just to keep forwards. And when the full and the empty are balanced, when they're both present, then your sacrum can be quite relaxed, this sense that it's just dangling freely. And then just the other foot forwards. So you can just count these out when you practice them, making sure you do pretty much the same number each side. And just feel, as your body becomes more relaxed, so does your mind. And for me to keep the full and empty ever present, what I need is this sort of even cheerfulness. Yeah. So just like a compassion, really, that just tolerates whatever's there. Okay. And now let's just go straight into the stepping one without riding horse, because they're very much a pair, these two. And again, just try and step with the toes angled in a little bit. That will help you get into the outside edge of the foot. It will just tighten up the energy. And it's just, it's like an aspect of discipline, really. And so your front foot points at the other person. And again, it's just full and empty, full, empty, full, empty, full, empty. Yeah, so the only reason we step with one foot is because we don't have the space to walk, but it would be a much better exercise if we were just walking, but with the same mindfulness. So they say, don't they, when the average person is walking, they're always off balance. So they basically throw the leg out in front of them to catch themselves because their head is leading and falling forwards all the time. So when you're doing mindful walking, you're balanced all the time. So the idea is if the master clapped his hands, you'd be able to freeze at that point without losing your balance, even if the foot was off the ground. Yeah. That's it. So you can either swing the hands together, like we used to, or you can then it becomes more like this exercise if you just let the arms sort of swing one forwards, one back. Then you sort of feel the cross energy a bit better. So the hand that's swinging forwards is the cross energy hand. So the weight is in the other foot at that point. Okay, so now let's just try stepping with the other foot. So again, just trying to keep your headlights forwards. It's more difficult when we're stepping. Making sure the front foot is angled in a little bit. And just feeling the full and empty. I mean, if you're stepping, then you must be full and empty at that point of lifting the foot. But we want to be mindful to it so that it's completely relaxed. There's no anxiety involved in taking the foot off the ground. This is the important thing, because taking the foot off the ground is difficult because we've only got 2 feet. Suddenly you're having to balance on one foot. So remember when we started Tai Chi, the difficult thing at the beginning is stepping. Stepping wide enough, long enough, and really lifting the foot by sinking into the other foot. So I sink into this foot, and that allows the other foot to come off the ground. Okay, and now let's just bring it back to riding horse for a sec. So even though we're not moving, so when you're meditating, it seems that, you know, there is no full and empty anymore. But actually it's the emptiness is like an expansion away from your body, and the fullness is a contraction into its core, its center, its root. So you're still practicing full and empty. It's just more difficult, if you like, to sort of to sense, especially the fullness. Yeah. So and what they say is that, you know, you reveal the fullness by concentrating on the emptiness. Yeah. So if I can just be with my breathing and just really expand out, like I'm just letting go and I'm just falling away from myself, then this condensing center becomes revealed. So that is the sense in which the hardness is worked on by working on the emptiness and the softness. So I'm just trying to relax, relax, and relax. Now, if that's all that I did, then I'd disappear. I'd just become a vapor. So I'm sort of forcing the opposite to come into play by concentrating solely on the other. Okay, and now let's try, remember the shoulder one? So again, get these toes pointing in a little bit, weight in the front foot. So you can have this hand either sitting on your iliac crest, which is good because it will give you a real feeling for that bone, which is really important, or you can have it in the fold of the hip, yeah, which is where I tend to put it now. And then you just circle, so 3 one way, and then 3 the other. Just really sort of just opening the shoulder, working on the shoulder. So the weight predominantly 70% in the front foot. Yeah, so this is pure cross energy, this exercise. So there's a sense that energy is coming through the arm and out of the fist. You're punching forwards, and then you're chopping backwards, if you like. And then let's try the other side. So again, just make sure your front foot, on this one, you can really get the front foot pointing quite a bit in, just to feel it, yeah? So when you're coming into the front foot, you're really pressing down with the outside edge. And then again, just that's it. And again, just feel how your mood shifts. Yeah, so as the arm comes up, it really expands the chest both ways. Especially when you go backwards, you can really feel the chest expanding. And how does that make you feel emotionally? Yeah, so John always used to say, do more with the left arm. Because this exercise is meant to work on the heart and the pericardium. And because the heart is on the left side, we do more with the left arm than we do with the right. Okay, great. So now let's just stand in riding horse again. So just feel it. You know, part of your mind is just coming back to this central, like condensed part of you. And another part is just expanding and drifting away. So you're very much of two minds. This is the whole idea of Taoism. There are two minds. One is ruthless and drawing everything together, completely detached, completely independent. And there's another part of you that's reaching out into the world all the time and trying to establish new connections. Okay, and now let's just try the one that everyone likes. So again, the front foot pointing in a little bit and just backwards and forwards again, but with like the cross energy going on. So this just really helps you feel full and empty because the arm that's coming up is on the empty side. So as I fill the leg, this hand comes forwards. Yeah. So you can see if you're with yourself, you tend to be concentrating on the fullness. And if you're trying to interact with someone, in the martial arts sense, if you're trying to reach out to yield to them or attack them, then your mind is on the empty side, the side where the energy is expressing. So it's sinking into this foot that allows this hand to extend. And here you can really let the waist turn. So I'm turning this way and extending, then I'm turning this way. So you can really feel the yielding like our pushing hands. So by filling one side, you energize the other side. So the emptiness is empty of weight, but full of energy. And then the other side. So again, get the front toes pointing in a bit. And then so just really feeling the two sides. So by moving slowly, we really feel the connection between the emptiness and the fullness. So as this is becoming more and more and more full, this side is becoming more and more and more empty, or more and more active energetically. And if by keeping that balance, my sacrum can hang freely and not get tense. So that's the difficulty really, is keeping a relaxed sacrum. That requires real attention to the full and empty. Okay. Now let's just come back to riding horse, because we can go into the next one straight from here then. So again, feel it, part of you is contracting in, and that will tend to send your bum out, yeah? And part of you is reaching out, which will bring your bum forward. So there's always this sort of tension in the sacrum between wanting to drift forwards and wanting to pull back. So it's sort of hovering. It's hovering in like a force field. Not just with the sinking and the rising energy, but also with the backwards and the forwards. Okay. And now let's just try the waving hands in the clouds. So here your hands are with, the hand that's coming down is with the sinking. The hand that's coming down is with my weight that's sinking into this foot. And the other hand, the hand that's coming up, is with this lift that will come through me when I sink with my Taoist mind. So when you do one thing in Taoism, there's part of your mind always looking for the opposite. Yeah. So as I'm sinking into this leg, I want to be aware of this rising that comes up because of that sinking. So this is now like full and empty in the same part of the body. So in the classics, it says, clearly distinguish full and empty, which we work on by going from foot to foot. But it also says, so it says each part is either full or empty, but each part also contains both full and empty. Yeah? So as this is becoming full, there's a risingness, because if there wasn't, I would just fall into it. Yeah? If there was only my heaviness without a buoyant lift coming up through that, I would fall. So we just want to feel that. It's like the spring of the trampoline. It's trying to spring me back, but it's not strong enough yet. Yeah. So it's that point where the rising energy is strong enough to send you back. That's when you move back. Yeah, so it's basically the figure of 8 in the hips, this exercise. Way. And there's so many ways of doing this exercise. It's like, you know, you see masters doing it, they all have like their own version. Because they'll all be feeling it slightly differently. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like there's a cloud, a mist that rises, and then it starts to condense and it just drops down then into the opposite foot, and that gets another mist rising. So when the rising tends to vaporize and the sinking tends to condense. So the vapor will condense into a liquid, and then when it gets really condensed, it will become a solid. So it's a bit like the sort of, you know, the Taoist alchemy, where you're changing one thing into another thing. So the lightness comes up through me, and that becomes heavy. So everything returns, everything becomes the opposite if you let it. Okay, and now just back into riding horse a sec. Again, just feel when you become still, you tend to come in. That is, if you have some control of the noisy mind. The noisy mind will always keep you out of your center. So when we come back to stillness, we allow ourselves just to sort of condense and gather about the center. And then slowly we start to feel the opposite to that, which is this expansion. And then we can just keep both present and just sort of settle in the middle of them. Okay, and now just turning side to side, so just keeping the arms in this sort of riding horse embrace. And just imagine you're just purely revolving around your spine. So your spine isn't moving side to side. You're just revolving around it. So this one always feels a bit sort of weak compared to the previous one. So it's like just trying to find its secret. So as you turn to the side and this turn becomes more and more extreme, how does that change the spirit? How does that brighten your mood? So this will get you into the sort of the expanding lightness. And then when you come back to the center, you'll naturally come back to the sort of central heaviness. And then here, the expansion. And then here, the contraction and the heavy. Great. And then just back to the front. Okay, now let's just turn the head now. And again, just very slowly. So there's no jerking, there's no sudden movements. Everything is really mindful. And once you get into it, you can really stretch, you can really push the head round to its real limit. So you're just extending the range a little bit. And again, there's always a sense of a figure of eight. If you can get a tiny sort of figure of eight into it, then you'll tend to stretch it beyond where it's used to, and that will be good. It doesn't matter what plane the figure of 8 is on, it can be on any. So if we... Great. And now to attention posture for these final few. So remember the ears, so just pumping the ears. Good. And now just using this flicking action of the fingers, just striking these points, the back of the head on the occiput, either side of the occiput. And then just using loose fists, just massaging into the kidneys. So the soft bit beneath the rib cage and above the hips, either side of the spine. You have to use your mind a bit to go in. So you're going into that area with your mind and really trying to get into the kidneys. So you can alternate, or you can do them together, or you can do like a combination. So when you alternate, you tend to get into figures of 8, and the figure of 8 will take you a bit deeper. You'll get more engrossed and find your own enthusiasm taking you deeper. Okay, and now just rubbing the belly. So it's, just the Dan-Chen area. Yeah, but we're not rubbing like this, we're rubbing side by side. So it's almost like you have 2 kidneys here. And again, you can alternate, or you can do them both together. And if you're female, you can just feel your ovaries. Yeah, so these points here. Yeah, so you're getting into those areas. And then just the other way. And then just the hands down. And now breathing in, the hands just float up, it's effortless. And then breathing out. So bringing the hands up. So you can think in terms of bringing energy into these lung points, lung 1, or you can just think in terms of just bringing energy up into the heart. So you're just encouraging this circuit, this lift that comes up the front and down the back. Great. And now just remember this one, the foot. And then the other way. And then the other foot. So bending the leg, and then the closer to the ground your center of gravity is, the easier the balance will be. And then the other way. Great. And now just shaking the foot, so just releasing tension from the joints in the leg, but especially the knee and the ankle. So you'd like the leg to be able to be just as loose as your arm. So here you're just shaking the tension, the residual tension out of the joints. And then the final one. So just feeling the blood and the energy just coming back down into your body. And then just back to attention posture. So this is a bit like our version of the corpse pose, you know, in yoga, where they just lie on the floor and just think of being dead. So just being really relaxed and expansive. So here we're just reconnecting mindfully with the force of gravity that's streaming down through the body. So they say, just imagine you're standing under a waterfall and the water's cascading onto your head and around your body. And just feel your root. So your roots are extending down from your feet. And just feel the sacrum. Yeah? So when you're attending to yourself, when you're scanning your own body with the mind, seeing where the tension is, then this tends to be back slightly. And when you're really attending to the world outside yourself, then this tends to come forward. So you can just direct your attention with just the position of your sacrum. Both positions are important. Okay, great.